So the Bionicle game was weird. Let's talk about it.
Yo, Kopaka!
Hey, so this funny little action-adventure platforming game was released on the 1st of September of 2003 for the GameCube, then the Xbox, PS2, PC, and Mac to coincide with the release of the first Bionicle movie, Mask of Light, which came out around the same time. You bet little me was excited about that. I must have been, what, like 5 years old at the time? I checked out the movie on VHS more times than I can count, and I was obsessed with it. It definitely had the impact on me it wanted to, and the next two films in the franchise were even better in my opinion. Though it's been so long since I've seen them, and I know they're definitely not perfect films, they did exist primarily to sell toys, but still, you could have done a whole lot worse, couldn't you? And the music, especially for the second one, dude, oh! It was just the best. It was beautiful, but way better than you would expect. The fourth film arrived much later, and I had grown up a fair bit since then, so that movie hit me at that age where you start becoming critical of everything because you think you're smart. I was a bit of a movie snob back then, so that film didn't grab me, unfortunately. Ah well, what can you do? Let's rewind back to 2003. As is the case with many movie tie-in games, this game in question had quite the rushed development cycle. This time since the developers never really worked on the project until the deadline was nearly there, and this becomes quite apparent as soon as you sit down to play it. Tight deadlines are definitely the greatest video game enemy of them all, and in the words of the developers of this game themselves, Bionicle was one of those, oh god, we've left it until we have 6 months to pump out this license clusterfucks. That sure instills confidence within me. See, the game was meant to be much larger, featuring more levels for each Toa in both their Mata and upgraded Nuva forms, but due to these deadlines and probably some slight mismanagement, the developers at Argonaut Games, who had developed games such as the Croc series and the PS1 Harry Potter games to name a few, had to scrap a lot of stuff, like story beats such as when the Toa first faced their evil nemesis Makuta for the first time, and so on. Or I guess his real name was Pterodax if you want to get picky. As it stands, the game just starts with Makuta somehow returning according to our heroes and them battling his spooky minions. You definitely need some knowledge of the toy line beforehand if you want to follow along with the very thin storyline of the game, otherwise you will be very lost. Luckily, the game comes included with a nice little encyclopedia that explains some of the lore of the world of Bionicle as it was in 2003, so at least there's that. Though I'm unsure if most players will even notice this. I played this game on the PC quite a fair bit in my earlier years, sometimes with my dad helping me out, though I could never ever beat it. For a young kid who was just starting out and who could barely type with a keyboard yet, this game felt impossible sometimes, and I don't think I was alone in thinking this. Now that I'm older and technically an adult, I thought we could look back on this obscure little part of childhood nostalgia to see how it holds up today. Did it even hold up way back when? I'm unsure if that is the case, but let's explore the expansive island of Maranui so we can get to know our favorite classic Toa and defeat evil. Let's go! Our story begins as the wise old Turaga and also the Matoran, citizens of Maranui, have arranged a play detailing the exciting exploits of our 6 heroes, the Toa, who I guess are the only audience willing to sit through this thing. I don't see any other audience members here. Suddenly, the play is interrupted by
Chikua!
who lets us know that evil creatures are approaching, including a new threat known as the Borok. The Toa battle them and conclude that Makuta, who they had previously defeated, is back. The 6 heroes decide to split up to go to their own respective parts of the island to battle these new foes and bring light back to the land. We join Tahu in his lava-filled section of the island, Tawahi. Let's save this little green fella! These wasp-looking enemies scared young me quite a bit back in the day. I've always been scared of wasps, so these big boys with their buzzing sounds didn't really help ease my fears. Turaga Vakama, in all his wisdom, meets up with us and encourages on our mission. Now it's up to us to explore Tawahi while battling Makuta's minions, collecting light stones that unlock extras in the main menu, saving Matoran around the level, and avoiding all that lava. You see that big cool sword Tahu is wielding? You won't get to use it in any form of melee combat anywhere in the game. Instead, you'll use the sword and other weapons to shoot elemental energy projectiles onto any enemy that comes into close proximity. These guys, if you are a more experienced player, are very easy to deal with. Instead of being challenging, they're more of a nuisance. For kids, I think the challenge is fine, maybe even a bit too crazy if we're talking really young like I was, who struggled in some of these sections for absurd amounts of time. But for older audiences, this will be a walk in the park, excluding some sections which we will get to. You know, let's actually have a little tangent here about the technical stuff so we don't have to get through it later. The gameplay is very basic. You move around and you have a double jump to use alongside these energy blasts, and to shield yourself from enemy projectiles or laser beams, you have a shield that absorbs any damage. You see that orange bar at the top of the screen? That's how much energy you have left. Every time you shoot at an enemy, this bar depletes and recharges very slowly over time. And in order to fill it up again quickly, you can either hold down the shield button, which allows your Toa to go Super Saiyan by absorbing energy from around the surroundings, which is a cool animation, absorb enemy attacks through the right shield timing, which fills it up a smidge, or collect these masks around the level, which fills up your bar and recovers any lost life force represented by these 4 green dots here. 4 hits without healing and you're out. And sometimes when you defeat an enemy, they will drop one of these energy spheres that replenish some of your health. That's basically all gameplay has to offer for now. It's very simple stuff, obviously aimed at a younger audience so they can learn such things as timing properly and using the right second to initiate attacks when the enemy is vulnerable. The fact that you have limited power is a good addition. If you would have been able to spam as many attacks as possible as often as you wanted to, the game would have been absurdly easy. Combat can get pretty repetitive though, and is not very engaging if you know what you're doing. Riveting. Like, I know this is meant for kids, so it was probably best to keep it somewhat simple, but yeah. Something that isn't so simple, however, is the camera, which is one of the things that will hold the experience back exponentially. This camera loves to focus on specific, important things that you might need to use or get to in order to proceed, but by sometimes moving the camera on its own, it leads to a lot of frustration and mishaps. This is especially apparent in Gali's level, where you need to swim around in the lagoons of Gawahi while struggling with a camera that disorients you from getting in the right direction and landing on the right platforms, as you can't really move much while in the air. And in Lewa's jungle-themed level of Lewahi, where by utilizing his air glide ability, you need to nail some pretty precise platforming jumps, and follow this stupid Gecko bird as it makes several sharp turns. It's very hard to keep up with this stuff with such a subpar camera that you'll more often wrestle with than get along with. The platforming controls themselves aren't the worst they could be, but they're still not perfect. Sometimes you do have yourself to blame for falling to your death, but at other times you won't feel very secure in your efforts as you awkwardly jump from platform to platform or float around while sliding down a hill. In terms of visuals, you know, things aren't terrible either, but rather humdrum. There's visual variety in the levels you traverse, so that's nice to see at least. And there are some neat environmental details like world-building statues or small critters running around the grounds that add some flavor to the areas you explore, though most areas feel rather empty. Character models for the most part aren't the greatest, and perform some stiff animations, though I can imagine these guys must have been hard to translate into video game form. Some of them, like the little Matoran, are cute and all, and I think some enemies like the Borok look pretty cool. Overall, it could have definitely been better with some adjustments, but it's not the worst. Except for the fact that I can spot the edge of the map there. Something really weird is going on here graphically between the different console and PC versions of the game. On some of them, Vakama is wearing this thing, and this problem of seeing the edge of the map is not there, but for some reason, the GameCube version, which is the one I'm playing, seems to be missing some textures and/or objects, which is strange to say the least. This isn't even down to emulation issues, as this happens on the actual console too. I have no idea why. Finally, in terms of audio, I'd say the soundtrack of the game is rather understated. It usually strikes you with more of a tribal and ambient feel, which does fit the fictional culture of Maranui. It's actually quite good, and I would genuinely say it is the best part of the game. Where problems do arise is in some of the sound design. Some of these sound effects can get a little samey, and the sound mixing at times needed a second look. In some parts of cutscenes there are no sound effects, like here. Yeah, there should have probably been some sound effects there to add a bit of immersion. There are also some issues with musical tracks sometimes not looping properly and cutting out, resulting in awkward silence, and for some reason the music on the GameCube is really low quality compared to other versions. Now, where were we? Ah, right. Tahu just helped obliterate this big scorpion-looking beast and... ooh, that's a lot of damage there. Let's move on to this definitely not a boss fight room. Oh, looks like I was wrong. Whoa, what happened there? I guess we won, huh? After finding and rescuing a specific amount of Matoran, they help us build this specific creature which holds this door open for us so we can move on. We discover the powerful Borok hiding out in the region, and battle them until they admit defeat. The Borok roll around you and some of them will eventually come out of their shells. Then you attack them while your window is open while dodging their attacks, rinse and repeat until they're dealt with. Eventually it's over as...
Oh, what's it doing to my mind?
Well, that happens, and the level is over. You better pay attention to Takua here, as he drops some vitally important information about a mask he's found. The next level takes place with Kopaka in Kauai, which means we're in a snow level, with completely different gameplay to that of the previous. Though if a certain glitch discovered by this YouTuber is to be believed, maybe this level was at one point meant to include similar gameplay somewhere, huh? Now it's a high-speed slide down some mountains as the Toa of Ice uses his shield to catch up with the Borok in the region to take them down as well. We get to meet Turaga Nuju alongside some really adorable Matoran who slide down these mountains as well. And once we catch up with the two Borok that have been terrorizing the place, we're done as another Chrono Mask, as they're called, is retrieved. If you don't catch up with these guys in time, this awesome little cutscene plays. Kopaka sure is done for. This level's alright. The controls can get pretty floaty and you'll more often than not bump into things, but I won't lie. Catching up with the Borok and activating your shield to shock them at the right moment is really satisfying. What I'm not too fond of is this Indiana Jones inspired section. These rocks rolling down and slowing you down are just annoying. Cheeky bastard, that Borok. Ah well, with this level in the bag, suddenly the Borok are defeated, I guess? And we're treated to a cutscene where the Toa all gather around together with the Chrono Masks they have collected from the defeated Borok, and I assume a huge chunk of the game was probably trimmed here. It wouldn't surprise me if at one point in development, there would have been a level for finding each of these masks with each Toa in their Mata form, but that's just speculation based on pre-released material like these screenshots of levels that never made it into the game. Fans of the franchise have discovered quite a few unused levels and animations from this game, and quite a few unused musical tracks, so that does support my theory. As it stands, this change comes really abruptly out of nowhere, since you have had no time to grow accustomed to these Toa. With this cutscene, our 6 heroes, presumably through the power of these masks, transform into stronger, more powerful Toa. The Toa Nuva. And that's that. Now we're on to the next level, where we play as the aforementioned Gali in the tropical region of Kauai, where the new stronger Borokal are running amok, causing chaos around the area. Hey Turaga Nakama, it's up to us to defeat them too. This level is very similar to Tahu's with the same gameplay, though with small additions like being able to swim underwater and performing a powerful Nuva Blast by filling up your energy bar and then pressing the correct button immediately after, to free certain Matoran from force fields. This level looks quite nice if I'm gonna be honest. I like its theme and it looks really bright and vibrant and is fun to explore for a bit. Kauai is a nice location and probably the region of Maranui that I would most like to live in. Like I said previously though, the camera is a problem while you're diving and emerging, which is a huge pain, like here. I'm just trying to get to this stone, just let me get it. You can't exactly move up or down in the water, you need to dive in from a certain specific height to get lower down and emerge by jumping out. It's rather strange and confusing to get a hold of and you never really fully get the hang of it. After gathering enough Matoran, they help construct a cool little submarine for us which allows us to bring the fight to the Borokal, as you just inexplicably spawn in another identical boss fight to that of Tahu's level, the only difference being that this time it's in a water area and the Borokal have different colors instead of all being white. A really useful and hilarious glitch, at least I think it is a glitch, can actually be performed here if you're lucky. By doing a Nuva Blast at just the right moment, you can take out every single Borokal in mere seconds. Keep that in mind the next time you're speedrunning this thing. Gali sure is powerful, being able to defeat every single Borokal all on her own. That's that threat dealt with. In one whole level? What were they even doing here? What was their plan? Whoa, Takua, where'd you come from? The Chronicler, as they call him, has seen new dark creatures, those being the formidable Rakshi, on their way to Onua. Gali rushes to alert Onua of their arrival. These Toa can't catch a break, can they? We're all of a sudden in Powahi, home of this Toa, Toa Pohatu. Gali runs into him and he lets her know that he'll alert Onua of the coming threat as Gali makes her way to Lewa to alert Lewa as Pohatu goes to talk to this small little fella.
Do not worry yourself, sister. I will rescue my young friend.
We get to run around in this desert until we don't, because all of a sudden this structure completely collapses for some reason. I'm wondering if the Toa aren't destroying more than they're saving, huh? The two land in this cave and hop on this minecart, and suddenly it's a fast on-rails minecart level where you activate switches, hop over obstacles, and lean left and right to collect things. As a kid, this was the level that completely stopped me in my tracks. No pun intended. I could never get past it, because honestly, it's a bit of a mess. It's fast, chaotic, and it's very easy to fall off the rails and spaz out. It's definitely not the best level in the game, but if you know what you're doing, I suppose it's over quickly. It's not a very good section, and I'm not a fan of it. And you can obviously tell it needed a bit more work done on it, but whatever. We're done with it now and never have to go back, as Pohatu and Onua reunite.
Onua, my friend!
Pohatu!
Just in time for one of the Rakshi to arrive. Onua decides to stay back and give the creature a warm welcome, before being smacked away as he falls down. Now we're in the caves of Onua as the physically strongest Toa of them all. Onua explores the place and deals with any threats that get in his way. It's another platforming level set in this dark cave as rocks fall all around you and you avoid acid, I think that is what it is? Or is it just water? I guess Onua can't swim, huh? I know that now. I had to try it. You'll get to push several rocks like these onto platforms to get doors to open for you. You'll even get to do it like 6 times in the boss fight coming up. You'll more often than not slip off of them, and it makes it quite annoying to do with precision. But don't worry, we haven't even gotten to the worst part yet. That part is right here, where you have to dodge these bull-looking things. This is one of the worst sections in the entire game, at least from my experience. Not only does the camera suck during this part, as it gets yanked forward if it's in the way of one of these bulls, causing you to lose momentum and focus, and you will often get caught on their poor collision meshes, causing you to get pushed or held back and destroyed over and over. It's a very unfairly frustrating section and will probably take you a while unless you're lucky. Maybe I'm just the only one who had trouble here, but still, didn't like this part at all. The level finishes off with the aforementioned boss fight with this Rakshi. Just push those boulders and dodge these, smelly attacks, and you'll be alright. This level is not the best, but it's okay. Though it ends just like that. There's no cutscene explaining what happens next or anything. Now we're here with Lewa in his region of Maranui, Lewa. The level starts off with you collecting 6 Matoran to help Lewa regain some of his powers. And then you just get, unceremoniously teleported deeper into the jungle. The bad camera rears its ugly head here again, like in this vine swinging part. It becomes needlessly difficult thanks to the bad focusing, and I'm not 100% convinced that I'm supposed to still be alive right now. Lewa's special ability is gliding, so that's what you'll do for a lot of this level, which does give you some advantages. Unfortunately, this Toa can't swim either, so you'll enjoy dying a lot as you try to get a grip of these controls while platforming around the jungle, and sometimes it can be very unclear of where you're supposed to head next. The worst part of the level goes to following the trail of this Gecko bird. The section doesn't last very long, but because of the fact that the bird makes such quick turns on its journey, you'll fall off very easily and probably have to retry this thing multiple times. At least the level is fairly visually appealing. It looks pretty cool and inviting, and I enjoy it for what it is. The level finishes off with another Rakshi fight on these platforms, and it's over very quickly. Ah, so close with the light stones. Alongside Gali's level, I think these two are my favorite in the game. They are the two that look the nicest, and I find them not too taxing to get through despite their several shortcomings. After defeating the enemy, Lewa, well, does this. Also, those aren't the mask for the Rakshi, right? Finally, we join back up with Pohatu, Tahu, and
Takua!
in Tawahi.
Takua!
Quickly explains that the mask he found all the way back in the first level was the Mask of Light? And he was sent on a quest to find the Seventh Toa? What's he on about? Unfortunately, the young chronicler has lost the mask to the Rakshi, the sons of Makuta. And so Tahu races to catch up with them in a level similar to the one we had earlier with Kopaka. Kopaka Nuva never gets a level in this game. This level is significantly sloppier though. Once again, you'll more often than not bump into things and probably scratch your head as you traverse this lava-filled hellscape as you race to get into first place against your enemy. It gets real intense near the end before the level just stops and that's it. Whoa, that Rakshi just exploded! There's the Mask of Light that randomly decides to attach itself to who then transforms into the powerful Seventh Toa, Takanuva. This is supposed to be a really important moment, but Takua basically did nothing all game and all of his development and journey happen off screen, so when he eventually transforms into Takanuva, you feel nothing. Also, Jaller is not in this game. He was left in the cold, dude.
Behold, Makuta! I, the Seventh Toa, have come to banish your darkness forever.
Man, that's not a very intimidating voice for the most powerful Toa of them all. Okay, let's defeat Makuta? How did we get here? Whatever. It's the final boss of the game and a fitting one at that. Playing as Takanuva makes you feel super overpowered as you slam dunk whichever enemy gets in your way. Soon enough, both Makuta and Takanuva start falling! All you gotta do now is jump between platforms to get to these glowing ones, let them power down like this, so that you can then properly reflect back Makuta's attacks on it. I didn't even know this while playing, but you don't even actually need to keep standing on them. You just had to step on them once. Whoopsie! Do this 3 times and you're golden. Game over. Now save your game.
Let's take a closer look at your shadows.
Man, Makuta sure gave up easily, didn't he? By removing his mask and combining it with Makuta's, Takanuva merges with him and becomes Takuta Nuva. Are you all keeping up with this stuff? With his newfound strength and power, he uses these incredible powers to open a door? And then we're done! That's the ending! You get nothing more after that. No final resolution to whatever happened to Matanui or the Toa or anything. That sure made everything feel worth it. This weird, shoddy ending makes more sense if you have seen the movie, but that doesn't make it any less sour. It sure was unsatisfying, but what was I really expecting? It's not like the rest of the game had a fantastic story to begin with. Which is a shame, because the actual canonical Bionicle story is pretty damn good for the most part. They had movies and comics and everything, and it was a dream come true for a kid like me who grew up with them. Alright, so is there anything else I can really say about this game? As a kid who loved Bionicle to bits, this game did what it had to do for me, even if it kicked my ass, but looking back on it, it could have definitely been much, much better. The game isn't terrible or unplayable, just very unengaging and mediocre, and very, very short. If you know what you're doing, man, you'll finish the game in less than 3 hours, I'm not kidding. Add on top of that the fact that there's little to no replay value here unless you want to unlock the extras by collecting a set number of light stones in each level, which includes stuff like a trailer for the Mask of Light movie, ads for the then new Bionicle toys for kids to get excited for, and some concept art to name a few things. You've got a very short experience on your hands. Every level is different, but this can lead to some scattered results, as you can probably tell. Since the gameplay switches up so frequently, you never really get used to one style. Textures are quite low quality and at times rather simple, but at least every level has some different enemies, right? Though you do deal with them the same way no matter what. Ugh. Well, the game has little else to offer. It has a story not worth mentioning, uninspired voice acting, uncertain controls, meh graphics, and there's not much to hold on to. I mean, best case scenario. If you can find this game for like $1 at a secondhand store or so, maybe give it a look if you want a somewhat easygoing yet quite flawed platformer that can easily be beaten in an afternoon unless you succumb to the frustrations of its shortcomings, of course. Bionicle fans will be the most likely to find something here, but even then they'll probably grow bored of the game quickly, unless they have very nostalgic memories of it or of the toys. Otherwise, I can't really recommend this one. It's just not a very good game, and was obviously the result of a tight, rather mismanaged development cycle that left it unpolished and unfinished, which is a shame. It sure turned out pretty weird. So what happened next for Bionicle and Argonaut games in the world of video games? There was a sequel planned for this game to be released in 2004 called Bionicle City of Legends, that would have presumably focused on the Toa of Metro Nui, which would have probably been cool to see at least. A little demo surfaced of this planned game in 2012, but there's not much else to go off of with this one since the project was cancelled fairly soon into development as Argonaut as a company liquidated not long after beginning work on it. However, another big Bionicle game would see the light of day in 2006 with Bionicle Heroes, a third-person shooter. Otherwise, several spin-offs and browser games were released to coincide with the toy line for years to come. Not to mention the cancelled 2001 game that has quite recently seen the light of day in a pretty playable state, thanks to some very dedicated fans. And that's awesome. Okay, so that's basically all I want to say about the Bionicle game. Unfortunately, nostalgia couldn't save this one. Still, I wish the developers the best, and it does suck that they had to liquidate not too long after this game's release. I hope they're all doing well today. No hard feelings, they should have just managed the project a little better. At least it gave me a lot of nostalgic memories. Big thanks to the channel Hexadecimal Mantis for their excellent work at uncovering some of the unused levels and such from the game. This stuff was really interesting to see. Hey, thanks for watching my little review of the Bionicle game. I certainly hope you enjoyed it. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like this video and comment your thoughts down below. And if you want to see more content like this, don't forget to subscribe. Check out my social medias if you want to. And if you want to support the channel more directly, you can always check out my Patreon page or my merch store. Thanks for watching everyone, stay awesome. Goodbye.